At a company retreat, the boss politely declined a toast from a colleague. My wife's trying to conceive, so no alcohol for me. My colleagues buzzed with excitement, wondering who the boss's wife was. The boss glanced at me tentatively. Honey, can I tell them? Me, seriously? My marriage to Oliver was purely a business arrangement. Initially, I despised the idea of an arranged marriage. But after seeing him in person at a family dinner, I suddenly thought maybe it wasn't so bad after all. The only downside was probably having to pretend I was only in it for the business partnership. As a result, even after 6 months of marriage, Oliver and I hadn't made any real progress. This was incredibly frustrating for me. He'd often wander around shirtless after his shower, showing off his toned six-pack, and all I could do was gracefully watch him walk away. It was unbearable. After a call complaining to my mom, the very next day I was set up with a job at Oliver's company. In her words, it was the best way for feelings to develop naturally. When I told Oliver the news, he didn't react much. He just took a sip from his teacup and said, "I don't have a problem with it." I pushed my luck. "So, can I be closer to you?" He looked up at me, his gaze unreadable. Probably not a good idea. Oliver, though usually reserved, rarely turned down my requests. This was the first time I'd heard him say no to me. I instinctively lowered my eyes. Oh. Then, as if a switch flipped, there was the sound of files falling heavily from his desk. When I looked again, his lips were pressed tight, his face a mask of conflict. "But if you want to, I don't have a problem with it." I ended up in the HR department at Oliver's company. Because their office was right next to Oliver's. It seemed he was a softie after all. My colleague, Sarah, gave me an employee handbook. I flipped it open, and the first page had Oliver's bio. The photo was a formal one of him in a suit, one I hadn't seen before. I found myself staring at the picture. Say what you will, but even with that cold expression, Oliver's face was undeniably handsome. No wonder I'd agreed to marry him after just one meeting. Just as I was thinking this, I heard a soft laugh behind me. Sarah covered her mouth. "You think Mr. Henderson is handsome too, right?" I quickly closed the handbook, trying to act casual. She gave me an all-knowing, suggestive look. "I get it. Most new girls here fall for him. But take it from someone who's been around, it's best to just admire Mr. Henderson from afar. Don't get any other ideas." I was a bit confused. "Why's that?" She patted my shoulder earnestly. "Because Mr. Henderson is married, and he's deeply in love with his wife. You might not have noticed since you're new, but he wears his wedding ring every day. He's so careful with it, like it's the most precious thing in the world." Really? I hadn't noticed that at all. When I didn't say anything, Sarah probably thought I was heartbroken. She quickly tried to console me, "But don't worry, you're so pretty, you don't have to be hung up on Mr. Henderson." I immediately tried to distance myself. "No, it's not that. I don't think he's that handsome." It was just on the first page, so I glanced at his bio. The moment I finished speaking, Sarah's expression changed. I followed her gaze. Oliver was standing at the office doorway, looking in our direction. I hadn't even seen him arrive. I couldn't read his expression, but the air around him felt a bit heavy. Just as I was about to greet him, he quickly turned, stuffed his hands in his pockets, and strode away, leaving behind a back that looked decidedly unhappy. Sarah immediately grabbed me, looking nervous. "What do we do? He heard you say he wasn't handsome. He's upset." "Me, seriously? He wouldn't be, right?" I didn't pay too much attention to Sarah's words, keeping my main goal for being at the company in mind. During some downtime, I slipped out of the office, trying to accidentally run into Oliver. But he didn't give me the chance. I wandered around and around, but I didn't see a hair on his head. The only thing remotely related to him I heard was when I passed by the executive office and overheard someone discussing. "Does Mr. Henderson seem like he's in a bad mood today? Yeah, I wonder who ticked him off." I'm the one dealing with it. His coffee today, he kept saying it was too sour, too sour. I had to remake it 3 times. Huh, you think that's bad? I had to run up and down 7 flights of stairs to deliver documents, and print them 18 times. I was puzzled. He seemed fine when we woke up this morning. Could it really be because I said he wasn't handsome? I mulled it over and decided to sneak into the stairwell to call my bestie. After I told her everything, instead of helping me figure out how to explain, she was shocked. You got a job just for your husband? I sighed. What else could I do? She sounded exasperated. Are you dense? You're married. If you want to be closer, just tell him you want a baby. I froze, my face gradually heating up. I'd never considered that. Hearing my bestie say it out loud made me feel a bit shy. But we haven't. She was incredulous. No way. You've been married for 6 months. I didn't know how to explain it to her. Even though Oliver and I slept in the same bed, neither of us had ever crossed that line. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had to chase him to his company. My bestie lamented for a long time. Tell him today. If he still doesn't react, take him to a urologist. There's definitely something wrong with him. I hung up, my face beet red. I turned around and found Oliver standing right behind me. What are you doing hiding here? I tried to look serious. How about we have a baby? He swayed, almost losing his balance. What? I repeated, have a baby. He coughed violently, nearly choking. Are you serious? I nodded hard. He pressed his lips together, turned, and walked away. I was silent. Do I really need to take him to a urologist? Back in the office, a few of the senior colleagues pulled me aside, saying they wanted to have a dinner party to welcome me. They even specially invited Oliver. They said it was to introduce me to the company's cornerstone. Me, that's really not necessary. The food at the restaurant was slow to arrive. While waiting, everyone chatted, mostly sucking up to Oliver. After the waiter brought drinks, they weren't content with just talking anymore. Someone picked up their glass and went over to Oliver. Mr. Henderson, having you is a blessing for the company. I'll toast to you first. Then he downed it in one gulp. Oliver paused, then picked up his teacup and said tactfully, my wife's trying to conceive, so no alcohol for me. I'll toast with tea instead. My heart skipped a beat. What was he saying? When did I ever tell him not to drink? Hadn't he disagreed earlier? Everyone else at the table went wild. Trying to conceive? Is Mr. Henderson going to have a little Mr. Henderson? He gave a rare, faint smile. Probably. Someone else started gossiping, so who's the boss's wife? We haven't even met her. She must be an heiress from some conglomerate, right? Oliver put down his teacup, a hint of hesitation in his eyes. He seemed unsure, glancing at me tentatively. Honey, can I tell them? Me, what do you think? My mind raced. Under everyone's stunned gazes, I slowly put down my chopsticks. And pretended to casually say to the person next to me, Hey, Bo, Mr. Henderson is asking you. Why aren't you saying anything? The guy next to me jumped, stammering, Mr. Henderson, my name is Wong. Oliver shot me a look, then played along, turning his head. Sam, can I tell them? Sam wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead. Maybe, let's not say for now. Oliver nodded. All right. A collective groan went through the colleagues. Sarah poked me. Basically, Mr. Henderson just called you honey. Pretty thrilling, huh? Me, yeah, it was definitely thrilling. So thrilling I wanted to drill a hole in Oliver's head. Towards the end of dinner, I got a text notification. I opened it. It was from Oliver. Wait for me in the parking lot later. I just glanced at it and didn't reply immediately. Who knew that after waiting a bit and seeing no action from me, he'd let out a soft cough right there at the table. Irene, did you get a new message? Suddenly, all eyes were on me. Me, holding my phone? I laughed dryly. You even noticed that, Mr. Henderson. He took a light sip of tea. Don't keep them waiting. You might as well have just told me to text you back directly. Under the curious gazes of my colleagues, I was forced to give him a curt okay hand gesture in reply. This man, why was he suddenly so infuriating? In the underground parking lot, Oliver wanted to give me a ride home. I was still fuming about his earlier behavior and stubbornly refused. He tilted his head, looking at me. Are you upset? I remained stubborn. No. He reached out, grabbed my forearm, and pulled me into a shadowy area. You don't want them to know about you? I opened my mouth, but for a moment, I didn't know what to say. Isn't it obvious? Seeing my reaction, a barely perceptible smile touched his lips. If you don't want to, we won't say anything. I was a bit surprised and couldn't help blurting out, you're not even going to ask me why? He turned and opened the car door. Would asking change your mind? I shook my head. No. He guided me into the passenger seat, his hand on the car frame. Then it doesn't matter. I sat in the passenger seat, stunned. He smoothly closed the door and went to the driver's side. Watching Oliver's effortless movements, I felt a strange pang of guilt. It made me feel like I was being dishonest with him. But I couldn't just say, I want us to develop feelings naturally, so it's better if we keep this a secret, okay? After thinking for a moment, I turned and told him seriously, if you ever have any questions, you can ask me directly. We're married, after all. Though I might not always tell the truth. But I could probably humor him occasionally. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, the veins on the back of his fair hand standing out clearly. He turned his head. Really? To show my sincerity, I nodded emphatically. Of course. He clenched his fists, looking down, conflicted for a long time. Then, clenching his jaw as if he'd made a huge decision, he asked cautiously, then why, if you think I'm not good looking, do you still want to have a baby with me? This time, I was truly speechless. He actually took that comment to heart? And had been dwelling on it all day? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That was just to handle Sarah, wasn't it? Otherwise, she'd think I had designs on a married man. Then, emboldened by the earlier drinks, I reached out and playfully pinched his cheek. Besides, I fully acknowledged the lethal power of my husband's face. In the dim light of the parking lot, I thought I saw a suspicious flush creep up Oliver's ears. He awkwardly turned his face away, saying nothing, and fumbled a bit with his seatbelt. Then he started the engine and pulled the car out. As the car moved out of the shadows of the parking spot, under the light from the exit, I saw it very clearly. The man's ears were super red. So, Oliver actually fell for that kind of thing? When I got home, I told my bestie about it, and she was utterly shocked. Oliver is the type to secretly blush? I covered the mouthpiece. Right? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes today, I wouldn't have believed it. She started giggling again. So he's actually a shy, passionate, 6-foot+ CEO. Her string of adjectives made me feel inexplicably embarrassed. My bestie continued, in that case, winning him over should be a piece of cake, right? Me, Elaborate. She began to analyze carefully, with shy guys, you just have to be direct. Tease him a bit more, and you'll win him over easily. I unconsciously repeated, tease? Then I heard a familiar male voice behind me echo, tease? I was so startled I almost dropped my phone. I whipped my head around. Oliver had appeared behind me at some point and was looking at me with a puzzled expression. I hung up the phone as quickly as possible. When did you finish showering? I didn't hear you. He took 2 more steps towards me. You were too focused on your call. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination. But I thought I detected a hint of wistfulness in Oliver's tone. He walked around me to turn on the bedside lamp, stood there for a moment, then, apparently overcome by curiosity, hurried back. What were you saying just now, about teasing? Remembering what my bestie had said, a playful mood struck me. I put on an innocent look. Teasing, you, of course. Oliver seemed to freeze for a few seconds. Then, as if regretting he'd even asked, he tensed up and walked away silently. I deliberately called out to him, "Where are you going? Didn't we agree we wanted a baby?" Oliver swayed, his whole body stiffening with his back to me. I trotted over, letting a strap of my nightgown slip off my shoulder, and looked straight at him. "Are you regretting it?" He pressed his lips together, and after a long moment, a hoarse no escaped from between his teeth. "Then why are you running?" I blinked. He remained silent for a long time, so I decided to reach for his towel. Before I could touch anything, a strong hand suddenly clamped down on my wrist. Veins throbbed faintly on his forehead as he said with restraint, "We should first focus on getting healthy." I silently watched his flickering gaze. A genuine worry suddenly bloomed in my heart. I wasn't exactly desperate, but he was acting like he was kicking some kind of addiction. Even the next day, I still couldn't figure it out. My bestie called me back, and I told her what happened last night. Even if I were a seductive siren, he'd be an invincible ninja. She was surprised. "This guy has that much self-control? Then you need to make him feel a bit insecure, get him to take the initiative." I completely agreed. But then I thought, what insecurity could he possibly feel? We're in a marriage of convenience, it's not like we can get divorced. My bestie thought for a moment. "Well, you know men. Who can tolerate his wife flirting with someone else?" I refused to believe a guy like Oliver wouldn't care at all. "Just try it. If it doesn't work, we'll figure something else out." I always trusted her advice. "Yeah, you have a point." During the morning department meeting, I deliberately chose a reasonably good-looking male colleague and sat next to him. His name was Vincent. He was an intern, quite handsome, and had been with the company 2 months longer than me. When he saw me approach, he kindly scooted his chair over to make room. "Irene." I smiled at him, holding my laptop. "You're here early?" He scratched his head. Being proactive is always a good thing, right? You know, this kid was actually pretty decent." When Oliver finally strolled in late, the first thing he saw was Vincent and me chatting and laughing. He paused at the doorway. The manager leaned over and called out, "Mr. Henderson, you're here." His brow furrowed, and his tone was sharp. "If I hadn't shown up, you all would have forgotten basic meeting etiquette, wouldn't you?" The manager suddenly seemed afraid to speak. Others who had been slacking off quietly put away their phones. Oliver scanned the room, adjusted his suit jacket, and announced sternly, "No talking during the meeting." The manager quickly agreed. But the meeting hadn't even started yet. His behavior, could he really be jealous? Before he sat down, I whispered to Vincent, "Look at him, isn't he being unreasonable?" Vincent seemed a bit scared of Oliver and whispered back, "Irene, let's talk later." This kid was genuinely timid. I couldn't drag him into slacking off with me. So I just listlessly watched him diligently take meeting notes. The atmosphere in the conference room remained tense until the very end of the meeting. Everyone wanted to escape as quickly as possible. I was no exception. But after Oliver said, "Meeting adjourned," he actually added, "Irene, stay behind." Vincent's eyes immediately filled with guilt. "I'm so sorry, Irene. It must be because I was talking to you." I quickly waved my hand. No, it's my fault." If he was really jealous, that was exactly what I wanted. After the last person had left, Oliver got up and closed the conference room door. I waited for him to turn around and asked, "Is there something you need?" He slowly paced back, staring at me for a long time. It seemed like he wanted to say something but was holding back for some reason. Finally, his gaze landed on a bag of dried fish snacks next to my hand. He opened his mouth. "It's not recommended to eat seafood when you're trying to conceive." I slowly formed a question mark in my mind. "That's it?" He nodded. But you clearly didn't look like that's what you wanted to say. If you don't say it now, I'm not listening anymore. Okay. I grabbed my notebook and walked out. The moment my hand touched the doorknob, Oliver coughed heavily again. I immediately turned back, humoring him. Yes? He covered his mouth with his right hand, his expression feigning nonchalance. You like that type? What type? I pretended not to understand. As if trying not to let me think he cared, he went through a series of casual motions, tidying up the folders on his desk, before slowly mumbling, "That pretty boy. He's just okay, I guess." After uttering these ambiguous words, he took several large strides and rushed out of the conference room ahead of me. I silently watched his retreating figure. He looked so tall and distinguished, yet why did he suddenly give off an air of hasty retreat? Thinking about his mumbled tone earlier, I suddenly felt from the bottom of my heart that this man, maybe wasn't so hard to win over after all. During the lunch break, Vincent suddenly ran over to my desk, head down, and handed me a boba tea. I was confused. What's this for? He looked a bit embarrassed. I feel really bad that you got criticized by the boss because of me. His expression made me want to laugh. What's the big deal? He didn't actually criticize me. Vincent looked at me seriously. Irene, you don't have to comfort me like that. Before he could finish, an emotionless voice came from behind. Is the HR department always this idle? It was Oliver, who had wandered to the doorway at some point. He looked at me, displeased. I put my hands on my hips. Isn't it our break time right now? He was speechless for a moment, paced back and forth at the doorway with his arms crossed twice, then left. Later that afternoon, after Vincent was called out for a bit, he came back gleefully packing his things. I was surprised. Where are you going? Vincent's face was full of unconcealed joy. Irene, I got a permanent position. And I'm moving to the marketing department, my favorite. Me, huh? Vincent's eyes were filled with gratitude. I misjudged Mr. Henderson, he's actually a really good person. Was this Oliver's doing? Then I think I figured out why he suddenly got a permanent offer. Vincent continued, it's just a shame, the marketing department is upstairs, pretty far from this office. I was sure of it now. I smiled. Well, I hope you enjoy your new role. Thanks, Irene. After Vincent left, I thought it over carefully. From all of Oliver's unusual behavior today, he was 200% jealous. All it needed was one more little push. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then Sarah gave me a playful nudge with her elbow. What are you laughing about over here? Did Mr. Henderson chew you out so badly this morning you lost your mind? I snapped back to reality and blinked. No, Mr. Henderson isn't that fierce, really. Sarah immediately put on a horrified expression. Irene, you haven't actually fallen for Mr. Henderson, have you? You can't. I covered my face. Oh, come on, that's not it at all. When we got home that evening, Oliver and I both tacitly agreed not to speak first. He sat quietly at his desk, reading. I was curled up in bed, watching a video with the sound on. The volume was just loud enough to make sure he could hear. A robust, elderly voice slowly emanated from the speaker. Why do couples grow distant over time? An experienced person tells you. Men must shoulder family responsibilities, be considerate of their wives' emotions. Seeing Oliver seemed to stir a bit, I turned the volume up a little more. A long-term loveless marriage can only lead to it existing in name only. Oliver finally closed his book. He slowly walked over to me. Not sleeping yet? My video continued to play. If a husband constantly questions his wife, it's undoubtedly an unhealthy relationship habit. He stumbled, coughed, and said, "Let's sleep." The old man on my phone started again. If a husband always orders his wife around, that's even worse. He took a deep breath. I'm going to sleep then. I was about to burst from holding in my laughter. I could only try hard to control my voice. Okay. Oliver carefully got into bed, only to hear the faint voice from the phone. For couples who each have their own careers, they should cherish their evening time together even more. Merely using it for rest might be a sign of avoiding intimacy. His body instantly stiffened. What are you watching? I really couldn't hold it in anymore, so I just turned off the video. I'm learning how we should get along. He choked a little but said nothing. I scooted closer to him. Since we've decided, don't you want us to be a bit more intimate? He moved further away, creating distance between us. What do you want to eat tomorrow? I looked into his eyes. Even though he was still avoiding the topic. Why did he look so cute? I thought about it and decided to stop teasing him there for the day. Anything's fine. Seeing that I had finally dropped the previous subject, he looked visibly relieved. The next day, I reported my progress to my bestie. Of course, I was hiding on the company rooftop again. My bestie couldn't stop laughing. Why do I get the feeling that, with the way he's acting, you've already won him over? I shook my head repeatedly. Impossible. He didn't even used to talk to me at home before. My bestie thought for a moment. You know what, I think you should just tease him at the company too. Just be direct about it. I was a bit hesitant. But, what if someone finds out? What's there to be afraid of? You two are a legitimate married couple, not some scandalous affair. I guess she had a point. I decided to act immediately. Grabbing a cup of hot water, I pretended to deliver a file and knocked on Oliver's office door. Come in. I tiptoed over. Put it there. He didn't even look up. I put down the hot water and the file. That's all. He urged me to leave. I stood my ground. What? He looked up, somewhat impatiently. The moment he saw me, the emotion in his eyes instantly turned to surprise. What are you doing here? I blinked, pushing the cup of hot water towards him. I came to see if my husband is working too hard. Oliver's ears turned red almost instantly. He immediately, awkwardly, turned to look out the window, even stuttering a bit. Didn't you say we had to keep it a secret? I walked around his desk, came to his side, and whispered in his ear. Yes, so right now, we have to be very quiet about it. The pink on his ears turned crimson. I deliberately brushed his earlobe lightly. Hey, why are your ears so red? Oliver's hand, which had been holding a pen, suddenly clenched into a fist. It's too hot. Hot. I turned and glanced at his air conditioner set to 78 degrees. You're a terrible liar. I didn't want to go too far at work, so I patted his shoulder. All right then. Good job, keep it up. I'm leaving now. Just as he was about to nod, there was a knock on the door. Sarah rushed in. Mr. Henderson, there's an urgent document. She froze. My hand was still on Oliver's shoulder. I quickly pulled my hand back. Sarah looked at me, then at Oliver. Her eyes widened in shock. After leaving Oliver's office, Sarah very seriously called me to the rooftop. You, child, what's going on? How many times have I told you, and you still don't listen? I looked at her silently, not knowing how to explain. Sarah said earnestly, you're so young and beautiful, with a great future ahead of you. Why would you? She put her hands on her hips. No matter how outstanding Mr. Henderson is, that's no reason for you to break up someone else's family. I really didn't want her to say any more. It wasn't that I didn't like listening to her. Mainly, I was worried that the more she said now, the more she'd regret it when she found out the truth. So I quickly bowed deeply to her. I'm sorry, Sarah. I know I was wrong. I'll get back to work right now. She stamped her foot behind me. You silly girl. I wasn't actually surprised that Sarah would come find me for a more in-depth chat. What did surprise me was she actually went to talk to Oliver first. Right now, she was stirring her Americano with a knowing air. Irene, I've already had a word with Mr. Henderson to get the lowdown. I was aghast. You talked to Oliver? Sarah nodded gravely, seemingly unsurprised by my reaction. Yes, but don't worry, I didn't rat you out. I felt a little relieved. She continued. I just told Mr. Henderson that I have a young, beautiful, and wealthy cousin who's had a crush on him for years, and asked if there was any chance they could meet. Do you know how Mr. Henderson answered me? I couldn't help asking, how did he answer? Sarah tilted her head back and took a sip of her coffee. He told me about him and his wife. I was stunned. Mr. Henderson and his wife have a long-standing relationship. It's absolutely impossible for anyone else to have a chance. Really? I'd only known him for 2 years, from our first meeting. Don't disbelieve it. He said it himself. He started liking his wife back in high school, liked her for many years before they finally managed to get married. What? I didn't even know him in high school. And, he said it very firmly, he will only ever love his wife. He even showed me his ring and asked me to help him turn down anything that might cause a misunderstanding. Why was I feeling a little embarrassed? I found it hard to believe. Are you sure all of this is true? Sarah, as if expecting this, pulled out her phone. I knew you wouldn't believe it easily. Good thing I recorded it. 5 minutes later. I was a complete mess. It was definitely Oliver's voice. But this story, how was it so different from what I knew? Sarah, still thinking I wasn't giving up, continued to persuade me. Irene, I really like you, and I genuinely don't want you to go down the wrong path. I put my hand on her shoulder. Sarah, thank you. But I think I have something I need to take care of right now. I'll treat you to dinner next time. What needed to be taken care of? Of course, it was to get a clear explanation from Oliver. Knowing him, he wouldn't make up a story just to refuse someone. So where did this whole tale come from? Back home, I sent Oliver a short clip of Sarah's recording. He was reading at his desk and, hearing the notification, casually picked up his phone to listen. Then his expression changed slightly. I waved my phone at him. Care to explain, Mr. Henderson? He put down his phone, his face impassive. What do you want to hear? I walked over to him. Didn't we only meet at that family dinner? Where did this long-standing relationship come from? He pursed his lips, his tone somewhat wistful. But I knew you in high school. But back then, you only had eyes for your studies. You wouldn't have had time to notice me. I thought about it. Because I was having some conflicts with my family during that time. I was really focused on studying. It was true, I paid no attention to anything else. I was a bit surprised. So you really liked me in high school? He nodded. Yeah, ever since you played the cello. Playing the cello was for a school festival program. I had almost forgotten about it myself. I was astonished. Then, was the arranged marriage because of you too? He rubbed his nose, looking a bit embarrassed, and gave a soft At first, they said you didn't agree. I thought there was no hope. He was silent for a moment, then asked. Why did you change your mind later? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If I hadn't seen you in person, I really wouldn't have agreed. His eyes immediately lit up. So, you fell in love with me at first sight too? I laughed dryly. Correction, it was just lust at first sight. Oliver fell silent. After a long while, he looked up. And now? You guess, I said, deliberately keeping him in suspense. He looked into my eyes, his eyelashes fluttering twice, and suddenly said. Honey, tell me. He was trying to charm me. Oliver suddenly grabbed my hand, gently opening my palm. Then, he rested his chin in my palm. Looking at me expectantly. I really couldn't take it anymore. I turned my hand over, covering his constantly skill-spamming eyes, and decided to make him happy too. Now, I like you a lot. As I said it, I felt 2 soft little brushes sweeping back and forth across my palm. So ticklish. Ever since we cleared the air, I've clearly felt that Oliver is very different from before. Previously, no matter how I teased him, he remained unshakable, as steadfast as if he were a soldier. Now, he proactively tries to charm me from time to time. He's even left the bathroom door open a few times while showering. And he completely avoids topics like focusing on getting healthy. If asked, it's all about being proactive about trying to conceive sooner rather than later. Then who was that invincible ninja before, I'd like to know. It's one thing at home, but he started getting antsy at the company too. Sarah was very uneasy. Irene, have you noticed Mr. Henderson has been coming to the HR department a lot more frequently lately? I played dumb. Huh. I think it's been about the same. She looked worried. Could it be because Mr. Henderson told me his secret, and now he regrets it and wants to silence me? I almost spat out my tea. No, that's not it. Don't worry. She still looked antsy. I had to find a moment to secretly corner Oliver. Are you doing this on purpose? Why do you keep hanging around our department for no reason? He looked aggrieved. Can't I come see you when I have some free time? I covered my face. What on earth was this man made of? But if you keep this up, everyone will notice something's off. Oliver tilted his head, thinking. So, why don't you want to go public? I was at a loss for words. Before, it was because I wanted to use the opportunity to improve our relationship. Now that our feelings were clear, I didn't really have a reason to object. But the idea of going public, for some reason, felt awkward. I could only say, don't make a direct announcement, but if someone asks you, you can tell them. No one would be bold enough to ask directly, right? He nodded in agreement. I suddenly remembered that a certain someone didn't seem to say this before. But didn't you say before that if it wouldn't change my decision, you wouldn't ask? Could it be, that was all an act? He looked at me knowingly. But haven't I changed your decision now? I guess he had. Unwilling to admit I was in the weaker position, I glared at him. So why did you suddenly change? Oliver touched his head. Before, you didn't like me. Publicizing a relationship that was purely nominal wouldn't have had any meaning. That seemed to make sense too. I still wasn't convinced. Then before, when I teased you, you were always a ninja. How did you manage to hold back? His expression was very serious. That wasn't being a ninja, it was respect. If you didn't like me, I truly believed that being intimate just for the sake of intimacy, so casually, would have been disrespectful to you. And in that case, I really wouldn't have dared. By the end, he had lowered his head, looking a bit embarrassed. His image, how did it suddenly become so noble? However, Oliver's noble image didn't last for many days. It crumbled. The very day after I agreed that he could reveal our relationship if someone asked. Sarah came to apologize to me. Irene, you're actually Mr. Henderson's wife? I wanted to be evasive, but remembering my promise, I nodded. Sorry, Sarah, for keeping it from you all this time. I'll treat you to a big dinner after work. Sarah's expression immediately turned to horror. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was so out of line before. Irene, please don't hold it against me. I grabbed her hand. What's there to apologize for? Having someone like you around actually makes me feel more at ease. Sarah's expression gradually relaxed. I continued, but, how did you find out? Sarah pointed outside the door. It's all over the company. I heard it from the manager. I went to find the manager to ask. The manager first respectfully called me boss's wife. Then, as if recalling, he said, It's strange, actually. I was just going to report to Mr. Henderson, and he was looking at his ring and suddenly started smiling like an idiot. It really scared me. Then I was about to leave, but Mr. Henderson suddenly called me over and asked if I wasn't curious who his wife was. How would I dare gossip about the boss to his face? Of course, I said I wasn't curious. But then he looked really unhappy and asked again, really unwillingly, if I wasn't curious at all. I could only pluck up my courage and say I was a little curious. Then he started laughing again, saying, "Ha ha ha, well then, I'll tell you. Irene from your department is my wife." Even so, I'd never seen Mr. Henderson like that. It gave me a huge fright. Thanks, I got a huge fright too. This Oliver, how could he be like that? Since it was already out, I stormed into Oliver's office. Under his astonished gaze, I quickly locked the office door. "Oliver, what have you done?" He was reviewing a document. Hearing my accusation, he slowly capped his pen. He looked completely calm and unbothered. I gritted my teeth. I said people could tell if they asked, but why did you have to pester them about it? A smile played on his lips. "Honey, you're so cute when you're angry. This guy must be crazy." I was both embarrassed and annoyed, and took a few steps around to hit him. "How did your skin get so thick?" His smile didn't fade. "You're really so cute." He reached out and pinched my cheek. "How can you be so cute?" I give up. Because of Oliver's maneuver, our relationship was inexplicably made public. My status in the company shot up. Before, everyone called me Irene. Now, everyone called me boss's wife. I felt a little embarrassed. But Oliver was especially happy. Everyone else was especially happy too. Once, I accidentally stumbled upon the manager leading a group in shipping us. I've been at this company for 4 years, and I've never seen Mr. Henderson like that. The power of the boss's wife is not to be underestimated. Isn't that right? Did you guys notice? Mr. Henderson used to hate leaving his office, but now he's always wandering out, actually just to secretly look at the boss's wife. Yes, and during meetings too. On the surface, he's listening to everyone's reports, but secretly he's texting the boss's wife. I didn't realize it before, but when you put it like that, they're really so sweet and perfect for each other. They were getting carried away with their chat when they turned a corner and suddenly saw me. They all looked horrified. The young woman leading the group quickly apologized. Sorry, boss's wife. We weren't. I quickly shook my head. No, Just as I was thinking about how to show I didn't mind, a familiar voice came from behind me. "No need to apologize. She doesn't mind, and I mind even less." I turned to see Oliver strolling over slowly, hands behind his back. He even had a satisfied smile on his face. I like hearing it. It sounds great. Say more. The manager was shocked. "Mr. Henderson, you." He smiled and walked away cheerfully, leaving behind a group of colleagues who, after exchanging glances, started to cheer. "Boss's wife, look. Mr. Henderson even told us to say more." Speaking of which, boss's wife, how did you manage to train Mr. Henderson so well? Can you release a tutorial? Boss's wife, if I want to ask Mr. Henderson for leave in the future, can I ask you first? That way, he definitely wouldn't dare not approve it. Boss's wife, you've already started trying to conceive. When did you get married? Was the wedding really grand? With everyone talking at once, I couldn't keep up. I could only choose to cover my ears and temporarily escape. And I blamed it all on Oliver. As he was drying my hair, he started sounding very aggrieved. "How is this my fault? This isn't even a problem. If you insist there's a problem, it's that you're too captivating. You've completely bewitched me. I never realized before, you're actually quite smooth when you say things like that." He gently twirled a strand of my hair. "What's so special about that?" Then he quickly leaned his head close to my ear, deliberately breathing against it. "There's a lot more you haven't discovered. Want to explore?" I instinctively scrunched my neck because I was ticklish, and he used his other hand to hold it steady. "Don't hide, honey." His hands moved faster. The moment my hair was dry and he turned off the hairdryer, his lips were on mine. We agreed on having a baby. We should make that happen sooner rather than later. I just felt the world spin. I was already pinned down on the bed. Don't let his words fool you. When we actually had a child, he regretted this. Right now, Oliver is gazing wistfully out the window. Why does a baby have to take so long to grow? He came back over and stroked my belly. Baby, if you don't come out soon, Daddy's really going to lose it. I lay leisurely on the bed, not saying anything. Oliver leaned over and kissed my forehead. Then he wanted to explore lower. I pinched his lips. He whined, just one kiss. I gave him a quick peck on the lips. Okay. Oliver was happy for a second, then went back to his pitiful muttering, though I couldn't quite hear what he said. Finally, he resignedly climbed into bed, stroking my belly and coaxing me to sleep. When I woke up groggily in the middle of the night, I found him mumbling indistinctly, "Honey, just one more kiss." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I reached out and caressed his face. In the future, we'll have lots and lots of time to nurture our happiness.